Back to another video that is going out on my YouTube channel. Today, I am extremely blessed to be joined by three of my Conscious Conversation community. For those of you that don't know, my Conscious Conversation community is basically a really cheap membership. It's £11 a month, and I do a weekly Zoom call. And a couple of months ago, maybe even 3 months ago now, I threw it out to the whole community, and I was like, who fancies doing some round tables with me? Who fancies, you know, raising their consciousness on some subjects that perhaps people don't talk enough about? And the beautiful Jenna, who I'm going to introduce you to in a minute, sent an email to my assistant and basically said, we need to talk about birthing. We really need to bring in the consciousness around birthing for people that have given birth, because hey, they're looking for help. Interestingly enough, as we speak, one of my best girlfriends is literally giving birth right now. So just, it couldn't have been a better time. It couldn't have been a better time. So, you know, for people that have given birth, maybe a long time ago, but they're still suffering. People like my girlfriend, who's literally giving birth right at this second, or even people like myself, who haven't yet been through that experience. So that's the consciousness that I feel that we need to be bringing to this. If any of you girls have got anything else that you would like to bring to it, please do share. But let's just start with an introduction. So Jenna, I'm going to start with you, because obviously you were the one that proposed this subject. So do you want to just give us a quick introduction and maybe a little bit of a why as to, you know, where this subject came from you, why it's so important to you?
Hi guys, hi ladies. My name is Jenna. I'm a mum of three. I am an ex-student nurse. I studied 2 out of the 3 years and then left due to starting being a mum. So I gave birth, due to come back, and then I had another baby. So I did not get to return. I suppose studying the subject, because to become an adult nurse, you must study midwifery as well, and other aspects of nursing, so like physiotherapy, outpatients department, etc. So I got to see some things. I was asked why I didn't come back, and my response was due to, can I say it, the neglect that I witnessed. So I mean, having my family, so then I went on to have three children in all. We discuss having children together, don't we, as mums? And we say that you know, it was harder than we expected, but what we don't discuss in detail is what goes on within that ward. I mean, I gave birth in a normal hospital, not the private setting, not, you know, not a nice fancy hospital, but they were loving, they were nice, but the due care wasn't there. And we can't afford doulas, and I would like to raise the consciousness just so that we can come together. And I didn't have a woman in the room with me. I only had 2 men, my dad and my partner, who I love greatly, and I'm so thankful that they were there. But the woman touch I expected within the midwife in the room, and I didn't get what I needed. So after having 3 children and the trauma around that, I've decided no more. Absolutely no more. So if we can discuss it and come together as women, as we should, and sort of raise the consciousness around it, maybe the care, we can build our new world and build the care within this system, because everything starts with the children and the birthing process. Everything should start there. So I thought maybe the round table should start there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And what I love about that is you are bang on. We literally birth consciousness. Think about it. Every time we bring a little person into this world, we are birthing, the women are birthing brand new consciousness. So we have to talk about these subjects, you know. And when it was proposed, I was like, I'm not the right person to do this. I haven't given birth. But that was just my ego. Of course I'm the right person to do it, because I need to learn about this stuff. You know, I could easily have got Donna or one of the other girls that have had children to run this session, but we need to be stepping into the space where the men know the divine feminine is vital for this process. They can't do it without us. It's as simple as that. They literally can't do it without us. So there has to be, even before the birthing process, there has to be that respect there. Then going through that birthing process, it's absolutely vital that you get the nourishment and the care on a soul level to be able to bring this new consciousness into the world without too much trauma. So I love what you said there, Jenna. Thank you so much, babe, and a great topic. So Helena, I'm going to come over to you next, if that's okay, my babe.
Of course. Pleasure to be on this call, and it's quite interesting because I hope to bring a different perspective, because ever since I was a young child, I would say my biggest fear is childbirth, overwhelmingly so. And I had 2 really positive births.
Wow.
So we can bring in the different perspectives there, but I have 2 young children, and there's many, when I've actually sat before this call, there's many Lucy sayings and messages that I can bring in to what is going on now as well. So it's a very interesting subject.
So how old are your children, just out of interest?
Nearly 3 and nearly 5.
Okay, yeah, young, lovely. Okay, thank you so much, babe, and thanks for being here with us today. Kirsteen, my love.
Hello, so I'm Kirsteen. I am 32 and I've got a little boy who is 3.5. He'll be 4 in October. So I'm just thinking about it, kind of listening to what Jenna and what Helena have said. I wouldn't say that I had a particularly traumatic birth. There was things that happened just before that kind of, within 24 hours of having my little one, kind of changed the way I was hoping things were going to go. But also, it was also a really positive experience for me, because I would say that at the point of just about to go into labour, or little did I know, on the verge of literally within hours of going into labour, that I think that is when I started to recognise how strong my intuition was. When I was being told by a consultant, oh, we need to induce you, and I was like, no, the baby's coming, you don't need to induce me, like there's no reason for it. So there's really positive aspects for me, but also the thing that I struggled with was how forced the medical intervention was on me. But luckily I kind of stood in my ground, and I didn't quite get everything the way that I had hoped and I'd planned for, because I wanted a water birth and that wasn't the case. But I was still able to have my baby naturally on my terms as much as possible, given the current the situation at the time, because I had busied myself so much the day before going into labour that I thought that I hadn't felt any movements, and I was so scared that I hadn't felt any movements that I then went up to triage, and at that point that's when they were like, we need to get you induced, and I was like, no, you're not allowed a water birth because you've been up within such a short period of time before your due date. So that kind of scuppered all that. So I was frustrated at myself because I was too keen and too eager to go up, to not trust and to not take that time to listen to my body for a little bit longer, when in actual fact I had just been so busy the day that I actually hadn't had the time to notice any movement. So there was a bit of learning in me, there's a bit of learning in that moment for me as well, to just listen a little bit more.
So Kirsteen, just on that point, the fact that they were talking about inducing you, normally they talk about inducing you when there's a problem or when you're 2 weeks late, right? So were you 2 weeks late?
No, I wasn't. My son was born 3 days early, so this was 5 days before my due date. But because I had rang triage and had to go up and get checked, it meant that automatically there was no water birth allowed, and they had to keep an eye on me because I was, yeah.
Wow, I
had no issues whatsoever up until that point, and I had said to them, so I went up, I think it was about 9 p.m. that evening that I had called, and they said, we need to get you up, we need to check baby. And of course, as soon as I went in, I was like, he's moving, everything's fine. But I didn't know at that point it was a boy. I had no idea. I was like, baby's moving, it's fine. They were like, yeah, everything's okay, but we need to get you in to speak to the consultant first thing tomorrow morning. And the consultant she had me in tears. She was horrible. She was horrendous. Yeah, it wasn't pleasant. But I just knew that everything was okay. And I was like, this baby's coming, there's no need. I was like, if there's any issues, like, I will be back up here in a heartbeat. I'm not going to do anything out of spite or out of sort of stubbornness to potentially harm my baby. But I'm telling you, I don't need any medical intervention. Everything is okay. This baby's coming. I had been practicing hypnobirthing techniques and stuff, so I was really aware of my body. But yeah, there was positive and negatives, and as I say, it really at that point showed me just how strong my intuition was, because I was right and he was there within less than 48 hours after going up. So it was kind of a bit of a middle finger up to them and say, I told you I was right.
Yeah. Interesting though, isn't it? So Helena's had good experiences with people. Kirsteen, yours is kind of like good and bad, but you've had somebody that's obviously created some trauma within you, which that close to giving birth is bloody dangerous. Like, let's call it what it is. It's dangerous. Within 48 hours of giving birth, if you are in a trauma situation, you know, if you hadn't stood your ground and you had been prodded and poked and been induced, your child may have come out a lot more traumatic than he did, you know. So this is I think what's extremely important. So let's just go on that point just quickly. So Jenna, what was your experience, just maybe like in a few words, what was your experience with your consult, you know, your consultant or like the midwife or whatever? If you could just give us a little bit of consciousness on that, and then we'll go round again, and then I'll step into the next questions if that's okay.
As Kirsteen has said, they tried to force cesarean on me. There was no need for that. So like intuition stepped in with me as well, and I was saying, no, if you just give me you know, something else. And that's when they pulled out the other injection. And it's not that one.
Okay.
It's in the thigh, and it makes the baby a little bit more sleepy.
Okay.
So I had that instead, because they was trying to push cesarean on me and they was trying to push epidural on me, and intuition steps in.
And what was the reason that they were pushing you for a C-section, babe? Do you mind me asking?
9.5 hours of contractions. So instead of trying to push inducement, they want to, we cesarean. No, okay, epidural. So the way that they sort of flim things in and out is they just need to force this stuff on you.
Okay.
And it's truly traumatic. It is truly traumatic, because you have a plan. They make you write a lovely, beautiful plan in your pregnancy. You water birth was on my plan as well, and you firmly believe you're going to get what's on your plan. And the day of giving birth, you arrive at hospital and all of your wishes go out of the window, and you think that's fine because I want a healthy baby, so I'll do what needs to be done to have a healthy baby. And then as the contractions go on and you become tired, extremely tired, they start throwing things out there that you may need, but you know you don't need them. If I needed something, you'd truly be struggling, because with my third pregnancy and giving birth, there was a few more complications and things had to happen quicker. So you know when something is needed, and it truly wasn't. And that's what they do. They try and force things on you that aren't needed.
And I guess and I can only assume this, but I guess when you're in that period of time of, I'm about to give birth to a child, you know, the last thing that you need to be doing is making serious decisions, because it's mama bear instincts, right? You just need to make sure that this little person arrives safely and as, you know, as healthily as possible. So yeah, I can appreciate that must be pretty traumatic. So Helena, over to you, babe. What was your experience with your consultant and your midwife? Good, bad, ugly?
With my son, my first child, obviously being first, it's that much scarier because you don't know. You can read all the books, you can research, but when it's actually happening to your body, it's quite a huge thing to be dealing with. My contractions were coming thick and fast, and when we phoned the hospital, their answer was, no, hold on a bit longer, take a paracetamol. Like that's going to do anything. But so then their answer was to get in the bath.
Yeah.
So I did that. Yeah, worst thing I did.
Oh, really?
It was
Wow.
so painful. So immediately I got out, and through all those changes, it just progressed my birth even more. With my second daughter, I was really fortunate in that I could know the signs. I was even more in control.
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate that when I walked through those doors of the hospital, she recognised, because like Kirsteen, I did hypnobirthing and I did pregnancy yoga, but it was mindfulness, awareness, very similar. And I was very fortunate that when I walked through those doors, the midwife who was looking after me knew the breathing I was doing. And she said, "Have you been taught by Lynn and Kirsteen?" I said, "Yes." And she said, "I've actually been their midwife for one of my teachers."
Lucky were you.
So she let me give full control. She was so beautiful and powerful that, yeah.
What a difference, by the sounds of it, listening to you two so far. I'll come to you in a second, Kirsteen, but listening to you both, how interesting that one person can make all the bloody difference.
Don't get me wrong, I had to be quite powerful and in my power.
Yeah, standing your truth.
Yep, but through the progression of the birthing, I knew exactly what my body was doing.
Yeah, good for you. That's amazing. Thank you, babe. Kirsteen, over to you.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, I had a really healthy pregnancy. The whole time up until that phone call, I had been in amazing midwife care. The midwives that I was seeing were wonderful. We had such a laugh, there was loads of inside jokes and everything. It was lovely. But as soon as that phone call was made, little did I know that because I went up to triage within a week of his due date, that automatically meant that I was then handed over to consultant care. So another thing that happened, so I went to the consultant to have that appointment the next morning. It was at like 9 a.m. and I went in, as I said earlier, she was very much pushing. "You didn't feel any movements?" I was like, "But it's everything was fine. You've checked me again today." They did an ultrasound before I went in to see her. The sonographer was like, "Baby's totally healthy, there's no issues. You were probably just so busy." And I was like, "Yeah, I went out a walk, I was batch cooking, I was cleaning the house, I was doing everything. I never had a chance to like stop and feel." And everybody that had seen me said, "Yeah, there's literally nothing wrong. Hopefully things will be all right. You might need to be under consultant, but we'll see what we can do." And this consultant was horrendous. And as I said, I really stood in my truth and I said, "If you're telling me that I need to be induced, please give me until at least his due date. Give me until a few days after his due date. I will come back in a week. Can we please reschedule this? And I will come back in a week and we can review and see where things are at if I have not given birth. However, I'm telling you that I believe truly that I am going to give birth within the next few days." And she was like, "Oh, but you've never given birth before. You don't know." And I was like, "I'm telling you, I know that this baby is coming so soon and the baby's fine." And so I was really upset and I was breaking my heart because I was like, "Please, I don't want this to happen. Like, there is no reason for this to happen." And my husband kind of stood by me and said, "Look, let's take a few minutes outside and calm down and go back in." And we did all that. And she agreed eventually after quite a long time of me being really, really emotional, overly emotional. As you say, Lucy, like that's the last thing you need at that point. And she agreed to get me back in a week's time to review the situation.
Amazing.
I then had my midwife appointment, my scheduled midwife appointment. I think it was at 11 or 12.
Same day.
And the same day, yep. And nobody once told me, because you've been to see that consultant, you don't need to go to see the midwife. So I went along to my midwife appointment and she was like, I told her what had happened. She was like, "You shouldn't be here. I can't legally do anything. I can't touch you. I can't do anything. You shouldn't be here. Did nobody tell you?" And I said, "No." And I had mentioned that I had my midwife appointment and nobody had said anything to me. So that was quite traumatic. And she was like, I'm so sorry. She was like, I can't do anything. You're now in midwife, you're now within consultant care. You're not going to have your water birth. You're not going to do this. And she was like, I know how heartbroken you are. So I'd had the trauma that morning of crying in that consultant's office. And then I was upset again. And I was with my mum. My mum had come along with me to that appointment. And then after that, she was like, let's just chill out. I had started getting backaches at this point, and I didn't realise that I was in labour already. And then we ended up walking around Aldi. We were like, let's go to the shops. And she was like, let's go to Aldi. She was like, I'll push the trolley, like you're really close to giving birth. And I was like, no, I really need to push this trolley. I was in labour the whole way through Aldi. We'd spent about 45 minutes. And then getting home, I didn't realise that the whole day I was in labour whilst I was in the consultant's office. And she's like, you don't know that you're about to give birth because you've never had a baby before. I was so right. So yeah, my intuition was so strong and I didn't realise it. I just thought that I was just being a bit of a crazy pregnant lady that wanted her own way.
How interesting though. So really, really huge different levels of care between all of you, right? So moving on from the care, what about the support that you received from the hospital generally, or the midwife or the consultant or whoever? Because I know, Kirsteen, you've obviously just said, the consultant was a bit nasty to you during that session. So let's talk about the support, in the birthing setting, whether that be in the room leading up to, when you're linked up or whatever happens when you're having contractions. Like, let's talk about that, if that's okay. Jenna, I'll start back with you, babe.
See, the medication that I received, I forgot what its name was. It was pethidine. I'm sure that's what it was called. Yeah. So that's what you receive, and it sort of numbs things, so that it's less than an epidural. So yeah, baby he came on his due date, so he came just on time. And so the support I received when it came to actually giving birth, I would squat. I would come off of the bed naturally, like you say, just as it's time. I would come off the bed and naturally go onto all fours. And it felt right to me. It just felt so right. And they say 4 midwives
right, babe,
would grab me, pin me back.
Just when you say it's right, it felt right. What do you mean by that? It felt less painful. It just felt as if that was the natural way to give birth. What do you mean by that, babe?
It felt like the natural way. It felt like the natural way is to go onto all fours, or like, like sumo style with your legs spread out, kind of. But every time I would do that, I would be grabbed by 4 women, pinned back onto the bed to lay down, so that you're held in place. So as I would be told to push, your body is kind of being held in place. And after giving birth, I found out I had 2 slip discs. So 2 sciatic slip discs within my back. So for 14 years, my eldest is 14, I've suffered with that. And in the last year, just before lockdown, I had an accident at home, slipped the 2 discs and an extra one into the spinal cord, and was unable to move, walk, wee, anything like that, because those were the functions that these discs had cut off. So it took a month to be recognised with that. Emergency surgery came out, and then physio was cancelled due to COVID. So I had to heal myself and come off of the crutches myself, due to watching sort of you and learning that I could do this. Yeah. You rose the consciousness within me. Wow. But the trauma set that in motion, and extreme trauma around giving birth. I later found out that it's wrong to pin a woman down when giving birth. I didn't know that.
That just sounds wrong to me. Like, I've never given birth. I mean, I saw both of you other 2 ladies going, oh my gosh. But to me, that sounds so freaking wrong. I'm like, nobody should pin anybody down at any point ever, first and foremost, especially if not in a birthing setting, when if you feel comfortable doing something, as long as it's not going to be harmful to you or the baby, like, but actually it sounds as if what they did to you was more harmful to you. Because if you think about it,
yeah.
like I say, ladies, you know I've never given birth. All of my followers know I've never given birth, not this lifetime anyway. It makes sense to me when you say you want to squat or you want to, you know, go on all fours. That makes sense, but just because of the natural gravity, the baby's going to follow, right? Whereas on your back, putting all of that pressure, that just sounds painful, babe. Painful. Oh my gosh.
It was.
So the support wasn't, well, they did support you, but in totally the wrong way. They pinned you down, you know? Wow. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. Please don't tell me you've got a story like that, Helena.
No. That makes me so, frustrated for you, because that is not what it should be like. The whole point of, as we discussed at the beginning, the flow of bringing the consciousness into this world, you need the flow of energy in your body to make that baby come. Exactly. I literally did not sit down the whole time.
Yeah, because you get up and then you go back down, and then you find you'll get back on the bed, and then you'll get back on the, you constantly move around the room.
Yeah,
it's nice to have a space, because
exactly.
you lean against the back of the bed a lot on all four, like up, so they spin you back round and lay me back down again.
No. And this is why personally I did not watch One Born Every Minute, or in the films and TVs, everyone's lying down screaming their head off. Yeah, the baby can't get out that way. Don't get me wrong, if that feels natural, but for me, I was literally walking around the room, you know, real freedom of movement. And you know, the final element of giving birth, yes, I was on the bed on all fours with my daughter. I was hanging on to the door handle the whole time, but that's because I was so centered in my breathing, my concentration of what I was doing. And the midwife came in and said, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm good. I've got a little while, but not too much longer." She was okay. I won't leave the room. And it, you know, and I was like, right, take everything off. I'm doing this. We're in business. You know, on the bed. You know, I was action stations. I was literally in my body, but up as well.
Yeah. Just like what, almost observing, so that you knew exactly what to do, exactly the right time. Yeah. See, do you know what's really interesting? When we've been speaking, you guys know that I'm extremely visionary. I keep seeing me watching myself giving birth, which is a very interesting image. And you just saying that then was almost like a yes, that's absolute validation. That's amazing. God, what a difference between you two.
And can I just add that I really felt that because of my fear, I picked the team that was coming on that journey with me, like I've picked you, Lucy, for this journey, in that I picked those three amazing, powerful women. But also, when I did become over my due date, like Kirsteen had said, I went to a reflexology lady, and I was like, okay, I'm not being induced. That is not my decision, my choice. So I managed to get a cancellation. I phoned her up. She said, yeah, I've got an appointment tonight. Can you make it? Yep. And it worked. I went into labour that next morning. Beautiful. Because I decided that's how I wanted it to be.
Good for you. Good for you. Oh, that makes me so happy to hear that people are using certain breath techniques, you know, reflexology. They're kind of like more holistic, what they call therapies right now, because I truly believe, as you guys know, that that's the way that this is going. You know, the intervention. I think my sister actually had to have pethidine as well. So going back to what Jenna said, I really do think that she had to have that when she gave birth to my nephew. So it's, you know, there's a huge difference in the way that these babes come into the world. And I just think I mean, this is a great conversation. So many women are going to take so much advice and help and assistance just from us having this brief conversation. So yeah, I love it. I love it. I love the fact that you're bringing the consciousness into your birth. You are setting the intention into your birth. You know, absolutely incredible. So Kirsteen, go on.
Sorry, one other thing, because both of you ladies have mentioned water birth. I had a water birth for my son, and it stopped the contractions completely. So don't think that you've been hard done by, because it, you know, they paint this magical image of you laying in the water and it being beautiful and natural. It didn't work for me.
Wow.
It's worked for plenty of my friends, but don't feel that you've missed out because you haven't had that.
Wow, that's interesting, because I thought, for me, a water birth seems like the most natural thing to do for a child, you know, because it's coming out of that liquid into something where it can just step into its consciousness. Very, very interesting. Thanks for sharing that. That's great. That's really interesting. So Kirsteen, how about you? Like in the birthing setting, how was this consultant? I'm assuming she was with you.
She wasn't, actually, which was great, because I think because I had went into labour so quickly and I had energetically pushed her away and told her, nah. Yeah. And I said, I don't want her to be there. I said to my husband, I was like, I'm not giving birth with that lady in the room. I was like, she was horrendous. And he was like, all right, okay. I think at that point he was scared because I was being, because before now I'm much more strong-willed and I will speak and I will say what I want and what I don't want. But before giving birth, that wasn't me. I was terrified. I was so scared. And I had done all the reading of the hypnobirth, and I didn't actually attend any classes, but I was listening to audio books and reading books and stuff and practicing the breath techniques. But when I was going to say if, but I'm not. When I have another child, I will be attending classes and I'll be doing it much more thoroughly, because I truly believe, and my wish for women and midwifery is that those techniques are practiced as standard and they're taught as that is the standard way, because I believe truly that is the most natural way. And really, I guess the phrase hypnobirthing tends to put people off because they think it's about being hypnotized, and it's not. It's purely about using your breath and using your body and listening to your intuition and trusting that your body knows what to do. And therefore you will know what to do when the time is right if you tune in and you really sync up with everything that's going on from the outset. So I really, really, really hope that things start to move that way, because Jenna, when you were telling, I feel really emotional just saying it, but like when you were saying about getting held down, my whole body, I had like chills up my spine, everything just wanted to like tense up. I could feel it even now when you're speaking about it. You're right, it's not the way to give birth, because actually it's more painful for you, it's more painful for baby, it's not comfortable for anybody involved. But I guess going back to my experience, so when I went up, again, I had to go into triage. I phoned my waters burst when I was on my birthing ball, literally exploded all over my living room. And that was about 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock, we were up, we were in triage, they checked everything, again, reminded that I wasn't allowed the water birth. I was like, so frustrated. But actually, when I got into the delivery room, we expected to go up and to get told, I was 4 centimetres when I went up, and I fully expected to get told, go back home, spend a bit more time. They were like, we'll take you in straight away. So I hadn't actually brought everything that I'd wanted to bring, because I didn't think that we were going to be in that position. But thankfully we had the hospital bag. There was a few bits and pieces that I'd still wanted to add in, because I thought that, I was like, this child is going to be late. If he's my child, he's going to be late. But he wasn't. And we went up and they said, right, we'll take you in, we'll get you checked out. And because I had been up for to get checked for no movement, they said you need to be hooked up to the monitor the entire time. So I had a bit of freedom, not quite as much as what as what you were speaking about earlier, ladies, but I had to be hooked up to the monitor to check, to make sure that his heart was beating the whole time, which it was, as I knew he was totally fine. But actually the midwife that I had, I'd never met her before, but she was amazing. I explained what had happened and I said, look, I know that this baby's fine. She was like, I agree. She was like, they wouldn't like me saying that, but I agree that you're fine, baby's fine. She was like, I know that how upsetting it is that you're not getting the water birth that you wanted, and that I believe you would be okay to have. However, I'm not allowed to, but I will let you be as free as I possibly can within the parameters that I've got. She was like, I'll be as flexible as I can. You're in complete control. She was like, I'm not going to force you to do anything. I'll guide you, that's what I'm here to do, but I will not force you to do anything that you don't feel comfortable. She was like, if you want any, if you want gas and air, or if you want anything, ask for it, but I'm not going to force it on you, because I believe that you're so in tune with yourself that you will tell me if you need it, and I don't want you to feel forced. So, and that's what I mean by, I didn't get the birth that I wanted, but I actually had a really positive experience because she was amazing. And I don't actually remember her name, and I'm kicking myself. Like, I really wish that I remembered her name to send her a little thank you card after it, because she was wonderful. And yeah, I totally agree. I ended up giving birth on all fours. I spent a lot of time kind of holding on to the back of the bed. I never moved around a lot off of the bed. I don't know if that was just me feeling insecure because of what had happened before, to kind of get up and move. And she was saying, you can move, you can go in for a bath, if you want to go for a shower, you can do it. We just need to be quick and make sure that you're getting hooked up. And I was like, right, okay. But I think having that attached to me made me feel less empowered to move around.
That makes sense.
But I gave birth on all fours. I ended up taking gas and air, which I didn't intend to do because I wanted to do it all through my breath technique. But again, I think because of everything that had happened on the lead up to it, when it got painful, my brain automatically went, well, it's there, it's been told that it's been offered, I'll take it, which was fine. But I wish I hadn't.
Yeah,
but
do you know what?
I was cracking some good jokes. I was the best comedian in the world when I was taking it. Honestly, the midwife was killing herself laughing. My husband was mortified because I was cracking "that's what she said" jokes to the midwife, and she was like, "Oh my God." Yeah, I was pretty funny on gas and air.
That's so funny. But do you know what? That's how happy babies come through, when you're having a laugh. And you know, as you girls know, I tell everyone as soon as they wake up in the morning to smile. Why? Because you are setting the tone. So imagine your baby coming out to you giggling rather than being pinned down. Like, just imagine the difference of the frequency in your child. I love it. I think that's amazing. So oh, I love this. Really good discussion here. So I'm actually going to ask a bit of a potentially loaded question now, girls. But I think, you know, listening to Jenna's story, I actually think that this might be, I feel it could be a good question, despite potentially being loaded, for people to have their consciousness raised on. So, in your opinion, just caveat this, everybody listening, this is their perspective. It doesn't mean that it's the truth. So any doctors watching, any midwives watching, this is our individual perspectives. This is not fact. We are not scientists. We're not, you know, anything other than people that have given birth. From your perspective, do you feel that childbirth could be, or incorrect childbirth, let's get that straight, incorrect childbirth, incorrect guidance, incorrect assistance, incorrect support could potentially be a cause of the downward spiral in women's health? Okay, I love the fact that you're all like, hell yeah. Okay, let's start with you, Jenna. And I know that this is pretty loaded with you because obviously you've shared that you've had the issues with your back. So yeah, what do you feel, babe?
Definitely 100%. Yeah, I mean, I talk to women about birth control as well, and that sets a lot of women on a downward spiral with their health, and we discuss that quite readily. So it's nice that we can raise this awareness. And yeah, I do agree, it set a downward spiral with my health, but I've taken control of it now.
Good for you.
And I am healing. I have healed.
Yeah,
so yeah,
amazing. Good for you.
Yeah.
I just actually want to touch on birth control because most people know my story, anyone that follows me anyway. I had a hell of a journey with birth control, a hell of a journey. You know, I've fallen pregnant 4 times, every time on birth control. Every single time on birth control. My hormones were such a mess because of birth control. And you know, I totally agree with you, Jenna, that is something that we do need to keep speaking about. We do need to raise the consciousness on, because actually, what if we learn how to navigate our bodies in a way whereby these pills and things like that were not required? You know, and I'm not saying please stop taking your pill, and, you know, because there'll be lots of babies and stuff like that, and, you know, but there is, I mean, I haven't taken the pill or been on birth control for, I don't know, since 2017, and in that period of time I've had no pregnancies, no miscarriages, nothing like that. And it's because I am so in tune now with my body. I know exactly what I can do, exactly what I can't do. And there's these things called condoms, right? You know, I know people don't like them. I know people are allergic to them. I know that there's lots of other, you know, the guys go, yeah, but it doesn't feel the same. Like, I get all of that. But if you can learn to navigate your body and be so in tune with it that you know when and how it needs to be protected, for me, that's the gift that I would really like to give women. I really would love to give that. And I totally agree with you, Jenna. It sounds as if the birthing process for you was pretty horrific and obviously brought in a lot of issues. However, you know, it's beautiful that you've been able to take some of the advice and some of the, you know, take some of the stuff that I talk about and create your own healing journey. I am so proud of you. I really, really am. And that's very inspirational for other women out there. So thank you for sharing that. Helena, my love, what's your views on women's health taking a downward spiral around birth control and around pregnancy and around giving birth?
Yeah, I don't think there's enough support there. I mean, generally, I think for parents, it's very easy to go, oh, I'm pregnant, and oh, here's a massive catalogue and all the things you need and all the fluffy, nice, expensive things. Go and get this designer pram and this beautiful cot. But that's the short term. The actual dealing with the birth and the aftercare is non-existent. And I had, funny enough, my son suffered from jaundice. Again, nothing was spoken about. There was no support in watching for the signs. It was only from the midwife coming to my house and, you know, explaining that that was happening. And also my daughter had silent reflux and literally cried day and night. And I think that and I actually did my own research, found more support from there to find fellow mums that were going through it. And it's really that unity of other parents that got me through it. Because all mums are sitting there at 2 o'clock in the morning feeding their children, absolutely shattered, and the midwives come in every now and again, or these, you know, parents during COVID, help them, please.
Yeah, to be fair, probably now during COVID, they probably don't even see their midwife, do they? They probably just do it on the phone. Now imagine that, because you need that human connection. You need, don't you? You need that, just that person that you could be like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, somebody help me. You know, it's very interesting, isn't it? So beautiful. Thank you for sharing, babe. Much appreciated. Kirsteen, what's your opinion, babe?
I completely agree with what the other ladies are saying. For me, I think particularly, well, obviously physical health is really important because there's so many aspects involved. Mental health as well. You get asked the questions, you get asked to fill out the questionnaires. I don't know, I was in complete denial that I was fine. I was totally fine. I wasn't. I wasn't fine. I really wasn't fine. Maybe that's because of my personal experience of having family members who have had mental health conditions, who have had quite intense and traumatic experiences through that, as experiencing that as a young teenager and as a child. Maybe that put my back up against actually saying, do you know what, I'm not okay, like I'm really struggling. But also with me, I breastfed my child, and I had quite a tough start to my breastfeeding journey. I would say the first 3 months were horrendous. I really, really struggled. The support for breastfeeding,
non-existent.
But again, so there was lots of, just try it this way and it'll be fine. Or of course it would be fine when they were there to show me, to kind of guide me how to do it. But you're talking about the majority of midwives that I experienced anyway were quite young, or had never had kids themselves, had never breastfed. So they were doing it from what they've been taught in the books, or what they've been taught with a fake boob. But a fake boob's not a real boob, and it's different, and babies are different. But yeah, so I really struggled, but I was determined that I was breastfeeding this child, and that actually he wasn't losing a lot of weight. We struggled to get him back up to his birth weight, but he was fine. He was peeing, he was pooing, he was doing all the stuff that babies need to do. But that support and that reassurance that actually it's quite normal. It's quite normal for you to struggle for the first few weeks, first few months. And then you do start to get into your rhythm. And then it goes to show that you do, because I breastfed up until last summer. He only kind of came off when he was 2 and just over 2.5. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So he made up for it. He bloody well made up. He made up for it. But
right.
Yeah, but I think the breastfeeding support, the mental health support, the physical support, absolutely, you need that for your physical health. But my experience, I was generally okay in terms of physical well-being after it, but mental health and the breastfeeding support are kind of where I see from my experience the lack. But again, like the birthing experience that I had one midwife who I had actually never met. Well, that's a lie. So I had the midwife that I met the day that I was in labour, but didn't realise I was in labour. And she wasn't my usual midwife, because my midwife was off that day, or she was at a different centre or something like that. But actually she came out and she visited me when I was struggling with the breastfeeding, and she was an older midwife, so this may just be down to experience of the fact she was a mum herself. But so I had spoken to her on the day after being at the consultant, so she was the one to say, I'm sorry, I can't actually touch you, I can speak to you, but I can't, if I touch you, I'm in breach of my position. Yeah. It was horrendous. But she came out and she spoke to me, and she was really supportive, and she was like, look, let's get you along to the breastfeeding support clinic, blah blah blah, we'll do this, we'll do that. I think I went once or twice and it was all right, but really the fact that you don't get specialised care, and you need to seek that yourself, and you need to pay for it, and you need to do this and you need to do that, and it's difficult to get booked into them because they're so high in demand. And it's like, well, if they're that in demand, why are they not more readily available through the service that we pay for in this country? But she was amazing, and actually I bumped into her about 6 or 7 months after giving birth. I was in Costa with my mum, and I was like, that's that midwife. She was the only other person with her family in the coffee house, and I bumped in and I went over and I said, hi, thank you, he's feeding. And I was in tears and she was in tears, and it was beautiful, it was lovely. So like Helena, like you were saying about choosing those people, I don't at the time I didn't feel like I was choosing them, but there's certain people that now when I think back, I think you were there for a reason. You were there to remind me that I'm okay, and that actually I was right in trusting my body. And then to be able to see her after it and to have that proof, it was lovely to be able to show that I was okay, and that he was feeding, and he was a chunk by that point, and he wasn't a small little bag of bones. It was lovely. It was so nice.
That's so amazing. So I think the key message here is women need more support, right? the key message. More support leading up to, more support during, and more support after. I mean, what was coming through when we were just talking then is, it's a shame that YouTube would probably ban a physical demonstration of how to breastfeed, because imagine having a channel, or imagine having an output, imagine having something where women can be like, I just don't know what I'm doing and I can't get booked into the sessions. I mean, I think honestly, from my perspective, I'm quite sad that you have to pay for that. I'm quite sad that you have to search that out, because who would even know? So
it's expensive as well. It's
yeah,
really expensive, the sessions.
And that's the thing, when this is something that how many women around the world are doing on a daily basis. How are we not coming together? I mean, in New Earth, it's going to be totally different, ladies. We know that, right? We're going to be able to show everybody everything that we've ever been able to do, and how to get things back the way that they used to be, and how to feed and all the rest of it. But right now, like, it just seems like there's a huge gap in the market, if you'd like. Not that it needs to be business driven, but there's a huge gap in the market for this support and this care. Oh my God, it's been amazing speaking to you ladies. Honestly, it really has. And I just want to say this to each and every one of you, whatever your experiences were, I truly believe you had to experience it as it was, so that you can raise the consciousness on it now. And I just think that that's such a huge gift for us to collectively give the collective. So yeah, ladies, thank you so much for your time today. Ladies and gents watching this, I hope you have enjoyed this session, and maybe these gorgeous girls will be back with me super soon. So ladies, I'm just going to press stop, and then I will be with you. Take care everyone. I hope you've enjoyed it. See you soon. Bye bye.